So before we get rolling, we got to read the language. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. And according to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. You're not hearing that? This meeting will be replayed via Xfinity Channel 8 on High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via the Government Access Live Video on Demand on the archives of the Town of Barnstable website. Just go to the website. There's a link there. All right. With that, do we have an agenda for today? It's not too long, I think. So with just one big thing to handle. So does anyone have anything they want to add, or is that approved? Louise, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
I know, and the dog was making a lot of noise. I move to approve. I have no changes.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Approval of the minutes from last meeting. Anyone have any edits to that?
I don't have any.
I don't either.
So I motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Moving on quickly. Kevin, operations report.
All right. How was everybody tonight?
Good.
Well,
Perfect. All right. We'll start on November 1st, Friday. Staff started the process of draining down the Mary Dunn 1, which is the smaller of the tanks at the location. This process typically takes a few days, and this is in preparation of the tank cleaners to come on Monday morning. Monday, November 4th. We're off to the races with UGAM is the group that does the cleaning and the inspection of the tanks. They, along with our staff, the folks on site, bright and early to get started on the cleaning inspection of the Mary Dunn 1 tank. Still waiting on the inspection reports for the tank, but no issues were identified at that time. We also had Mayor Well Services in to begin the well rehab process on Mary Dunn 1. Excuse me. They pulled the pump column, and the bowls for inspection and steam cleaning back at their shop. They also run a test on the motor as part of the rehabilitation process. And no issues with that were reported, and that's back in service as well. So the 6th of November, Wednesday, Veolia staff were called up to Mary Dunn number 4 for a shutdown of the water main, for Winston Builders. They are the contractor working on the new well number 4 site. Winston Builders removed hydrant 532 from the old existing well site, and the Veolia staff was then on site at 32 Main Street to do an inspection on a new 4-inch fire service that was tapped into a 12-inch cast iron main for the project at that location. Last but certainly not least for that day, they were called out to 442 Main for another inspection. This time they inspected a cut and cap on a 6-inch cast iron main, and they also had a third-party inspector on site to make sure everything was being done to the Hyannis rules and regulations. Friday, November 8th, Mayor Services was back to start the cleaning and surging of Mary Dunn Well 1. They also add chemicals to aid in the cleaning and rehab of the well. Typically with no issues, the entire process takes about 10 days. When completed, the well will be reassembled. We'll take multiple samples to ensure cleanliness, then be put back online. The 11th, Monday, November 11th, we had our staff in as needed to set up and start draining straightway storage tank. The UGAM group was back in. They were scheduled to be there Tuesday to clean and inspect that tank as well. In addition to that, we had our on-call person respond to the property located at 399 Scudder to perform an inspection for a cut and cap at the main. Bortolotti was the contractor that was doing that work. November 13th, our staff responded to 281 Gosnold, where it was reported of a service being hit. The service was mismarked, and our contractor was called immediately to fix the curb box and repair the leaking service. November 14th, let's see, was a curb replacement day. Bortolotti was in to repair 2 broken curb stops. The first of the repairs was located at number 9A Linden Road. The second of the repairs were made at 107 Franklin Ave. Both curb stops were replaced, put back into service. Friday, November 15th, staff were called in to inspect a new 2-inch service that was installed at 473 Main Street. No issues were identified at the time of the inspection. November 19th, we had Stonkus Hydraulics in to install another new flow meter that was damaged during the lightning strikes back in June. In addition to the meter install, they also replaced all the piping on train number 1 at Mary Dunn Treatment Plant. And across town, we had staff working with Activated Carbon Corporation on an exchange at Straightway number 2, and that's on the lead vessel. John Roberts has taken over this duty and continues to do a great job. These exchanges take about 4 hours when things go according to plan. Not always the case. And then got a few pictures on the next page. Well, on that page, new 2-inch meter installed, just to give you a heads up on what that looks like. The curb stop leak at 107 Franklin Ave. It was a pretty good one. The Mary Dunn Treatment Plant upgrades are kind of ongoing and continuous, and we still got a ways to go there, but we're chipping away at it each month. And the Cape Cod Hospital, they did a hydrant relocation there, and that's part of that bigger project of the new, I think it's cancer center that they're building. We are, again, chipping away at the deliverables pretty well. Meters and radios, we're crushing it. I think we're ahead of those by quite a bit. The AWWA testing has certainly not gone as planned, but we're not that worried about it. We'll pick it up in the spring and take care of business. The hydrant painting's done for the year, so we're all set with that. And valve inspection and exercises, a lot of training, because we have 4 new staff members, so we're teaching them how to do. Yeah, we're actually in pretty good shape. We just had another one just start Monday of this week. So
Great.
along with all new staff comes a lot more training, but
Yeah.
we're cruising along the best we can. That's all I got for you.
Good. Thank you.
Certainly.
I don't have anything besides, I just want to wish you and everyone on the team a happy holidays. I hope that the guys, if they have some rest time, that they can enjoy it, and that everyone just has a good holiday.
I will pass it along. Appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, you guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that good stuff.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
All right, Matt, you're up now. Thank you
Perfect.
for joining us.
Happy to do so. I apologize if I end up having to get up and wave my arms around. My office likes to pretend that I'm not here and shut off the lights on me on a pretty routine basis. So if I do that, you'll know that's why. And it'll also get real dark. That being said, I'm happy to jump into the project updates. Let me pull up my screen share and make sure that you guys can see the CIP update sheet. All right, that should hopefully have that up for you now. Everybody able to see the update sheet now?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, so on project number 1, our new well exploration program project, phase number 4, we still have no update while we continue to be in the same legal holding pattern that we've been for the last couple of project updates. So not much going on there. Item number 2 is our pilot testing project for the Mary Dunn and Airport wells. We've been working with the DPW procurement office and legal office to figure out how we can go about closing out this project, being that it ran beyond our original project deadline and the contract deadline. To be able to do payments, we needed to make sure that legal wasn't going to have issues with us being beyond our contract period. So we're working on having a no-cost contract amendment produced by Kleinfelder, reflecting a closeout date of February 28th, 2025. And Kleinfelder is working on closing out the remaining comments that we had on the assessment memo. Happy to answer any questions you may have on that project.
No.
Perfect. Moving right along. Item number 3 is the Straightway Water Treatment Facility project and the replacement Hyannisport and Simmons Pond wells. I know that last time that we had met with you guys, we kind of punted on delivering the update on the cost estimate while we went through a very detailed review of an 80-page cost estimate that was done by Alana Group. Was the third-party consultant that Kleinfelder had selected to go through and kind of vet and make sure that their reasoning on cost that we had gotten at 30% was sound. Alana went through and did a very detailed review of all aspects of the project, breaking out both the main treatment facility, the replacement of the Simmons Pond and Hyannisport wells, and the overall project costs. After running through the numbers of what we had in our original appropriation, what we've used up in design to date so far, and what they estimate the total construction cost of the plant will be, we're coming up with a current budget gap of about $13.6 million. That's slightly rounded. So at this point, DPW, Hyannis Water System, Kleinfelder have kind of been speaking internally. And at this point, we feel like our best option to have a firm understanding of what our final price is going to be is to bid the project, come back with contractor pricing, and what we plan to do to try and bring numbers back more in line with our existing budget is to do bid alternates on a couple of the easier to separate items on the project. The first is we have a second fully redundant backup generator proposed up at Straightway. What we plan on doing for our first bid alternate would be to hold off on the installation of that second generator, but otherwise prep the space, utility connections, and everything else so that this can be bought and installed at a later date if need be. The second add-alt, which would need the generator installation to happen first, as well as awarding for the main treatment facility project, would be the demolition and construction of the replacement Hyannisport and Simmons Pond facilities. We've confirmed with Kleinfelder that if we held off on replacing these facilities, we would still be able to operate the new plant with just a reduction in overall output from what would be expected, but it would not cause us to need to change anything with the design, and we'd be able to do those wells at a later date if need be and have them more or less seamlessly connected to the new treatment plant. So that's really the biggest update that we have on this project. Unfortunately, it's not the best of news, but while we're going through kind of looking at those cost estimates, we're also wrapping up and going through some of the town permitting. So Kleinfelder over the last week has gone through with informal site plan review, had a successful meeting with that committee, and is working on going for formal site plan review now that they have their approval. And they are also preparing NOI applications for the Conservation Commission and Board of Health variance applications for the tight tanks that are needed for the bathroom facilities that are now included as part of the new facilities. So the plan is to file both of those applications after the new year, and we'll, of course, update you all as we find out what the meeting dates are. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Obviously, Matt, this is probably the biggest, most important item on this whole agenda today.
Absolutely.
Obviously, for everyone, we've gone from a $36.5 million project to what's basically now a $50 million project. That is a giant, scary increase. But
absolutely.
construction has gotten just shut up in price. I want you to Matt, this is not at you guys. You guys can't control pricing in the market. We're at 60%. My big question, you were at 60%. How confident on this 50 million number are you now, or do you think it's going to continue to go up as we get bids?
Hans, feel free to jump in if you disagree with anything I say, but my feeling at this point is we've tried to get a really firm understanding at every step of the project so far what our estimated project costs are. And we've really tried to work with Kleinfelder to refine those numbers so that if we're going to get bad news on what pricing is, we'd rather know earlier on. That was kind of the whole point of the third party estimate, was to get a real firm handling of these numbers. But where we've seen increases at every stage of cost estimates, I'd be really hesitant to say that it's impossible at this point. That being said, the whole point of why we want to hold off on requesting any additional funds or making any of those final decisions until we get contractor pricing back is because at that point, at least whoever is coming up with that pricing is going to have to live with making the work under that cost. And what we plan on doing as part of that is making them retain pricing on their quotes for 90 days beyond submission so that we have some time to be able to deal with that and make a decision.
Thank you. And I'm glad you guys did this. I'm really glad you took the extra effort to get this firmer number now. And I think it's a good plan of action.
Yeah, the trickiest thing to
Yeah.
date so far is what we had asked them for was a breakdown of how the cost had increased over the various categories of construction. So whether you're talking about electrical or your equipment or just the building furnishings themselves, hoping, like I said, it's been kind of uniform price increases across the board. Some of the larger items that might carry a price tag of millions of dollars themselves may have only seen 3% increase. I'm speaking generally here, but that's still a sizable increase in cost for that specific item. Likewise, smaller items, there was a substantial percentage increase, but overall cost might have only shot up $100,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like there's one easy to identify item that's going up, that's driving up prices. It's just kind of generally speaking going up,
Okay.
which is a little
Yeah.
bit terrifying.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, I hate this phrase, but it is what it is.
Yes.
You know, it's this or
Exactly.
we don't build the plant and we still remain restricted on our ability to pump water and clean water. So
yeah,
And-
we're trying to attack it from every avenue that we can, and we just want to make sure that we're getting a good product at a fair price, and we're trying to get a handle of exactly what that means.
Right.
great. And to a little look ahead, these numbers have been incorporated into our rate model already. So,
Okay.
right, Hans? Remember correctly?
He's on mute.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's correct. Yeah, the rate model conversation does include the most updated cost estimate. Yes.
I want to give the board the heads up on that when we get to that conversation.
Mhm.
All right. And any other board questions on this item at the moment?
No,
Okay. Well,
Matt,
we'll
you've done a
obviously
great
keep you guys
job.
in the loop.
Yeah, you do a great job explaining it, and I appreciate that. You, I
Yeah,
appreciate it very much.
happy to do that. I think the transparency is really important, especially
Mhm.
with items like this.
Yeah.
So moving on to item number 4, we have our lead service line replacement program that's being headed up by Kleinfelder. We have, since we last spoke, mailed out physical customer notification letters for a couple of different service line materials. And I'm sure you guys might have heard some word around town about these notification letters. They included quite a bit of scary language in them. And overall, we were meeting an EPA requirement of notifying the public of here's what EPA is telling us regarding these materials and how they may impact you. But to the best of our knowledge, we did include a cover letter as part of the mailings, basically saying that Hyannis Water System isn't aware of any lead service lines currently in the system, and whenever we are aware of them, we go ahead and remove them almost immediately. So other than that, we've heard from numerous customers kind of reaching out, curious about how it impacts their water service lines, what they can do to determine their water service line material if they received a letter saying that it contains unknown materials that may contain lead, and what's available for them as far as testing of their water system, their drinking water, as well as who and what is the timeline of responsibility for the replacement of those service lines. And we kind of just tried to go about tackling each one of those calls as they come in. And in the instance of anybody being curious and wanting to verify what their service line material is, we're logging those calls with Veolia and their subconsultant CDW to basically schedule on-site inspections to physically verify those service lines in customers' basements or meter pits or otherwise. Other than that, actually, yeah, that's mainly the update right now. We're more or less, other than that, just working with the GIS department to review the customer-facing portal mapping tool. But we're not ready to roll that out until we've had a chance to bring Hyannis Water System, Kleinfelder, and the GIS department together to review those.
Sounds good.
And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on that.
No,
Have you had, I don't know if you noticed, have you had any like really either like flipped out people over this whole thing or angry people, or has it been at least like a understanding curiousness?
It's been mainly understanding curiousness is what I'd say. There's been a couple of people who they give you the immediate reaction of, oh, well, you're not going to replace this. This is going to be a huge cost and burden to us. And what we've kind of been doing to address those calls is to remind customers that, well, we're not going to bear the cost for replacing the portion of the service line that's outside of the right of way. They are not obligated to replace it, but it is in their best interest. Which doesn't sound like the best answer, but if they're complaining, if they're saying that the price is prohibitive and they can't bear to have that expense, nobody's mandating that they remove and replace their service line.
Okay,
right.
great.
And on the operations side, I have spoken to a couple of different customers, and I wouldn't classify them as flipping out or anything like that. But just like what Matt says, they need some guidance and better understanding what this language means, and they just they're just curious. They just want to know what's going on, and should they be concerned, yes or no. So most of the time, those conversations have been pretty good, and I'm basically guiding them to Matt and to Kleinfelder, and to start doing an or help us with investigations of their service line, because eventually we do need to get the leftover 2,000 unknowns
2,300 or so, I believe.
Yeah, we need those resolved one way or the other. So it's going to be quite a project to get them known instead of unknown. Okay.
Absolutely. I'd say the only other thing I'd add to that would be a lot of the customers have also been very willing to go through with submitting their own self-led surveys on parcels that we didn't reach out to with that brochure back in the summer. They just weren't part of the original 1,000 properties, but we are getting some good responses. And to date, as far as I'm aware, I believe there were 2 customers who self-identified as potentially having lead, and we're working with those customers to have Veolia go out and verify. Or sorry, not Veolia, Kleinfelder and CDW, my mistake.
Great.
All right.
All right.
And then I will turn it over to Tyler for item number 5, or sorry, got a little ahead of myself there. Item number 5 is the Route 28 and Yarmouth Road intersection project being led by Mike 2. This project, we're still running into some issues with actually being able to start the replacement work for those water service curb stops. The relocations are currently on hold while the town works with Verizon to basically have a couple of telephone poles moved. This has now progressed up to the town manager's office, where he's speaking with Verizon as the utility company, basically trying to push them to complete that work so we may wrap up these service lines. And I have no other update on that project at this time. The next one is item number 6, the Route 28 East Sewer Expansion Project and Water Main Extension. There's no update on this project from when we last met in November. And we're more or less just kind of at closeout on that piece. Item number 7 is the Ocean Street Water Main Project, being led by Paul Graves and DPW. We had a pre-con meeting last week with Veolia, Hyannis Water System, DPW, and Dirtworks, who's the selected contractor on that project. Dirtworks is looking to hopefully take care of the water main installation work. They wanted to this week, but that's not happening. So they're looking at early into the new year, completing those tie-ins between Hawes Ave and up Ocean Street towards Gosnold Street. They plan on taking care of the main installation first, and then they'll tie in the other connection points at the end. And all interested parties to date are on the same page between us, Veolia, Emergency Services, DPW, and the contractor. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on that. Perfect. And item number 8, I will turn over to Tyler now.
Good evening, members of the board. How's everyone doing? For Mary Dunn, pay rec number 4 has just been approved. It's working through Hans for a total of $132,050. And as of now, only change order 2 is making the rounds for town approval. That amount is for the emergency shower, the water service for the building, and the associated plumbing. That was the issue that initially delayed the project start, I should say. That change order is in the order of $25,543. Change order 3 that was mentioned in the update, that'll be for the generator pad. We had spoke last meeting about the imbiber bead system. So it's just a means of incorporating that into the generator pad. So that we have not seen any supporting documentation for the contractor, so I don't have an order of magnitude on the price. Building is still scheduled for a March delivery, and in the next few weeks, weather dependent, Winston Builders will be working on site items and kind of just cleaning, grading, and preparing the site as much as they can, and that the freezing temperatures will allow. So if the weather is good, then we should have some progress there. Any questions from the board on that?
Nope.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Have a good one, Tyler.
You
Thanks,
too.
Matt.
You too.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right, and then these last 2 updates should be relatively brief. Item number 9 is the 16-inch transmission main project for Mary Dunn treatment plant, or sorry, for Mary Dunn Road. Unfortunately, I have still not been able to find the time to just do the wrap-up work on that. So I have no update from our previous meeting on it. And then item number 10, we have the Mary Dunn Tank Number 1 rehabilitation project. We're working with our procurement department right now to get the IFB front-end documents drafted. The town engineer and DPW management were looking for these base level documents to be added into the review package. So we've re-engaged with procurement. They're drafting those documents now, and as soon as those are complete, we should be able to get approval from management to have the project advertised for bidding, with the goal of having a contractor selected within the next couple months.
Awesome.
No other update on that at this time.
Great. Well, Matt, Tyler, thank you all for your hard work. You guys have been very, very busy this month from what it looks like on these sheets. And so thank you for your hard work, this month and through the year. And at least for myself, I hope you both have a very, very happy holidays.
Always happy to. Hope you do.
Yes.
Hope all of you do as well.
Thank you.
All right.
Any
Have a
other
nice night.
questions from the board?
No. Thank you, Matt.
Oh, anytime. Thank you. Hope
Thank
you
you.
all have great holidays.
All right, moving on. Next up are finalizing the budget and capital rates for fiscal year 26. So I'll give a little preface. We've worked extensively over the last month with Eric, Aiden, with DPW leadership and also the town. So I'm blanking on names right now for Dan and Mike, not Mike,
Mark Milne.
Mark Mills, thank you. To really dig into this model more. I think we have done in at least the last 5 years to make sure we've got every number correct. So I'll hand this over to you guys to kind of do your presentation, but I do think we're in a very good place right now.
All right,
Great.
thank you, Sam. Let me pull up the model, and as Sam said, we worked with staff over the last month to tweak some things in the model. So I'll go over the main changes. Will be the third time you've seen the model this year, and we think it's in a really good spot. So let me share my screen, and I will jump right in. First and foremost, let me jump to the capital plan, because that was what was the focus of the discussion previously. Give me a second here to get rid of there we go. In the capital plan, you will see, of course, straightway treatment plant. It's consolidated for the purposes of our model, but it is in these years spread over the time frame in which SRF loans will be materialized. And you can see the total of these loans from 27 to 2030 is just under the $50 million mark for that one project. So that is included in the capital financing. We've also included additional money for the airport Mary Dunn Wells, treatment plants in south and north, to the tune of about an additional 25 million. And then design and construction of new wells in out years extending to 2033, totaling about 28 million. That being said, if we look at new SRF debt that's built into this model from the time frame of fiscal year 25 through fiscal year 2033, we're looking at a total of just over $101 million in SRF funded improvements. So yeah, it's a very large number. So what we are doing on the revenue side to mitigate the increases for that level of capital investment, we talked about.
To just jump in, we had to make a major change. Apparently, we can going forward. We're going to only really get 15 million a year in SRF debt. That's why you see those broken out by 15 million a year.
Oops, sorry.
Where and that's that's some sort of new rule from the state. So we'll the guarantee is we'll get 15 million a year guaranteed for straightway. The next project, the new wells construction, that other number is a little more speculative, Mary Dunn, just on the grounds that there's not a guarantee we'll get that money. But that's a problem we'll have to just deal with at that time.
Yeah, and it helps a little bit in pushing out the debt related to those projects. So yeah, it is a limitation that's new in this version of the model.
And it sort of works to our advantage because we get the debt interest free until we can issue that the kind of the what's that? I can't think, the carry debt, the bridge financing is interest free, which is really nice.
Right. So given the support of that capital plan, we talked about, and I'm gonna scoot over here and zoom in as best I can. This $6 million here in fiscal year 25 is related to the PFAS settlement. That cash is going straight into the fund, and we're using it to mitigate future rate increases. The other change we made, the transfer in from Vineyard Wind, used to be at about $500,000 level, but after discussions with town staff and reworking some numbers, we've increased that back to $1 million in fiscal year 2025, decreasing by $100,000 a year until we level off at $500,000 in 2030 and beyond. So given the layering of the debt, and I'm going to go up to this chart here first. This spike in revenue here, you see in this green line, that's the $6 million PFAS settlement. The more continuous trend are the rate increases included in the model. You can see here, because of the timing of that new SRF debt, that yellow bar here is that new SRF debt service. It doesn't really start materializing until about 2030 when some of these projects are capitalized, but you can see it rises quickly to a total of about $5.5 million just in SRF debt service per year by 2035. And again, that's to get over $100 million in capital investment. Currently, the system in total runs about $8-9 million a year. By the end of our forecast, that's approaching $16 million a year. To incrementally increase rates, you can see the trend in this line is following that curve in the increase in the cost of the system. If we go to our chart over here, again, the goal in this chart is to keep the blue line above the red line being the minimum recommended reserve balance. This increase here is due to the injection of the $6 million. And to keep this line steady and mitigate the impacts of the future debt service, what we have included in the model, I'll show you the next 5 to 6 years, 4.25% increase in rates in 26, and increasing that by 25 basis points each year up to about 5.5% by fiscal year 2031. What that allows you to do is phase in the revenue increases as the supplemental revenue from the transfer of vineyard wins decreases, and on balance, sustaining the fund at or above the minimum fund balance level. So the recommendation for this budget year is 4.25%, with the understanding that increases around the 4.5 to 5% are going to be necessary for future years.
You know, it was when I was just looking at something when we first saw your model, Eric, in October, in our October meeting, we were looking at an 8% increase in our rates this year alone. So through this work and to be honest, the $6 million of PFAS settlement money, and by really re-looking at how we were handling the model far out, you know, if you remember before, we would spike and then fall off on that, you know, on that free cash and then dip and then come back up. We've really rebuilt almost our kind of future model, and we've been able to pull ourselves down to 4.25% rate increase this year, which is not bad, really not bad.
Yeah, Eric, can you also explain a little bit about the future estimated water use increase?
Thank you, Hans. I knew there was something I was going to forget. Let me pull the model back up. It's a good point. I think at the last meeting we discussed this chart here. I believe it's this one. So this chart here shows the total system billable usage.
Eric, you're not sharing screen right now.
I'm not sharing. I'm sorry. I have to click the share button. That's what I have to do. And I'm gonna hide this for a moment. There we go. So this chart shows the actual billing in blue going back to 2003. We've been doing this a long time. And you can see the average was very steady around the 100 million units through 2020. And there was a pretty large increase for the past 3 years through 21, 2, and 3. And then this drop down into 2024. So this is an actual value for fiscal year 2024. We included, you could see an increase in this line here. We've included a slight increase in water sold to account for some expected growth, particularly residential growth within the system over the next 3 to 4 years. So historically, and I can put some numbers to this, the historical average you can see is about 103. This is the average going back to 2003, and these are units, both residential and commercial, of water sales. Fiscal year 24 landed at about 100. We're incrementing that back up by about 1% a year. You can see here for the next 4 years to about 104 million units. So that increase in revenue is also taking a little pressure off of the need for rate increases. Previously in this model, we were forecasting based on a flat 100 million units for residential and commercial.
So kind of just for the board to think of it this way is that, we're kind of estimating a little growth. Obviously, we're really weather dependent in the summer. When it doesn't rain, we make a lot of money. When it rains too much, no one runs their sprinkler system. We don't make any money. So my biggest recommendation is when you do your dances to the rain gods, please avoid doing them in June, July, August, and September.
That's right. So to quantify that impact, I think we discussed it last time. The decrease from 23 to 24 usage is about $600,000 in revenue, which was a big hit to take in 1 year. So the increase of 4% over a 3 to 4 year period is just helping to bring in some additional revenue just from the user base rather than the rate increase.
So does anyone from the board, I've been through this like 4 or 5 times, so I've pretty much had all my questions answered at this point, and I want to appreciate, especially for Aiden and Eric's time to meet multiple times with town leadership and Hans and myself to really do this fine tuning. But does anyone from the board have questions about this?
No.
I guess I have one question. When we're talking about the unit increase, does that include like upcoming construction projects, and that's just like part of that estimate? So like
That's right.
all the condominiums that are going up and things like that, and that's where we're kind of up that couple percentage points. Okay.
What we're typically seeing, even nationally, is existing users are using less and less water per capita. But so the growth is coming exclusively from new connections.
Okay.
Yeah, and right now, I'm pretty conservative relative to monies this way and future estimates. But the way we've seen approvals come through for especially downtown Hyannis, the amount of apartments that are being built and are going to be built in the coming couple of years is pretty substantial. So I am comfortable enough with going up 1% for the coming 3-4 years. I think we will manage that. Now, it's going to be even better if we have some dry summers, and we might have a problem if these apartments not getting built fast enough, or when it's a real wet year. But I think we have enough of a reserve built up now that we can manage some differences in revenues forecasted.
Think about it this way. You saw a 10% decrease in demand from last year, and we were forecasting based on that higher amount last year, and we're still coming in with a reasonable rate increase. I mean, you look at this every year, which means you'll be able to adjust as those things change.
Which puts us ahead of a lot of systems that, as you talked about, Eric, only look at it like every 3 or 5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the highest rate increase you're seeing from one of your clients?
Oh, I've recommended 100% rate increases. I mean, there were situations where there were just emergencies that they've had. It usually happens with a change of leadership or administration. We had a client whose finance director had been there for like 30 years and just didn't want to spend money on anything, including utilities. And then they found out they had millions of dollars of deferred maintenance and projects they needed to do, and they had to essentially double their rates. I know the impact on the average residential customer was like $40 a month. It was a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are the wells able to handle growth at a sustainable level? Meaning, if we do grow 1 to 2% a year, does that result in additional expenditure?
Yes and no. It's a typical lawyer's answer. It depends. If we don't have excessive dry summers and our growth is not much more than what we're experiencing now, we'll be okay. Okay, so that's the reason why we do the upgrades on the treatment plant, so we can push more clean water out. That's one thing. But the reality is, long term, we really need new wells, especially because it takes such a long time to actually permit these.
Yeah.
And then the construction is also, not a quickie. The other problem is that we need to long-term think about, what happens if one of our treatment or well areas gets contaminated again by something else than PFAS, something, for instance, you cannot treat for. What are we going to do? But that's really more long-term planning. So long-term, yes, there's a problem. We need more new wells closer to Route 6, probably more towards the west. But we have a plan for that. So long-term, we need to work towards that. On a short-term note, we're fine. I'm not that worried, especially since we have Done 4 well building come online before the summer. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. And as we add green sand filtration, that helps us in what we can pump from wells because we can reduce our carbon, the impact of our iron and or manganese on the carbon tanks. So then we're not just burning out carbon really fast on iron manganese and holding it for actual PFAS and other issues. So, so if anyone else have questions, Nate, do you have a question by any chance? Anything you want to add?
Nothing at the moment. I mean, everything's sounding good though.
Great.
Hey,
So,
just quickly, and
Yeah.
I apologize if this was already said, but just out of curiosity, about how much would the average residential customer's bill go up? It's quarterly, right?
so we have it at the very bottom. You'll see the
Okay.
sample bills median quarterly bill is going to go from $1 or 147.36 to an estimated 153.63. So call it $5.30 a month, a quarter.
Okay.
The average is a little bit more than that. You're looking more like $8, but we're not talking $40, $50 a month type situations.
Right.
So, Eric, you're on mute right now if you're trying to share something.
I was, but you beat me to it. And at the 4.25% level, those dollar amounts, again, looking nationally, especially given that huge amount of capital investment you're anticipating, is about what we've seen as a reasonable year-to-year rate increase.
Great. So, really not hearing more discussion. We do need to have a vote, and if I'm correct, Hans, it needs to be a roll call vote.
Yes, you are correct.
And so we'll need a motion to start that. Can we just motion the 4.25%, or should we just do it as per recommended here? What's the best way you want the language?
Either way is fine.
Okay. Somebody want to make the motion? I'm happy to, but I don't want to be the only one to always make the motions.
Go ahead, make the motion.
All right. I will motion to do the rate increase for the fiscal year 2026 of 4.25% as laid out in the recommendations from New Gen Strategies. Is that good, Hans?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. All right, roll call vote. Louise?
Yes, aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
And I vote yes as well. All right, so motion passes unanimously. That's all we need to do, Hans, right?
That's correct.
All right, great. Well, Eric and Aiden, thank you both very much for your help. I think you see more of us and we see more of you this year than at least in my time on the board. So I really appreciate your hard work, and I hope you guys both have a very happy and relaxing holiday period. And we'll
Always
see
a
you
pleasure.
in
And
9 months or so.
we mentioned last time, Sam and Hans, when we were on our call, our firm does a firm-wide summit every 3 years. And in 2025, we'll be in Boston. Everybody at New Gen will be in Boston. And Hans has offered a tour of the facility, the new treatment plant when we're around. So we might organize a road trip.
We'd love to see you guys down here.
Yes.
That would
Thank
be
you
great.
all. Have a Merry Christmas.
Thank
Merry
you,
Christmas.
Eric. Merry Christmas to you.
Bye.
All right. Moving on to our last item, the billing issue with FY25 rate increase and how it's being implemented. So, Hans, do you want to kick us off here?
Yes, I will. It's not so good news. Basically, what happened was that Veolia, when they put in the new rates, the rate increases for fiscal year 25, so our current rate, they did that just before July. What happened is they did not input the rates correctly. So what happened was this only affected the residential customers. On the second and third tier of use, things were totally screwed up, and we basically did not calculate the billing software did not calculate the tiers and the resulting cost properly. What that basically meant was that between July 1st and I think half November, somewhere in that area, November 15th or 17th, we did not bill out enough for what it should have been. And we're talking about serious money. We're talking about $800,000 total. Okay. So this is not something that's easy to deal with. Me and Sam and I and the town, Dan Santos, Mark Milne, we discussed this issue, and how we're going to fix it is we send out a cover letter to all customers that were affected. And these are the residential customers that have medium and high use for whatever reason. And then probably within 1 or 2 weeks, we will be starting to rebuild them, and basically rebuild them as a separate line item on their next bill that will go out probably January, February, March timeframe. Okay. It's not a pleasant thing. Veolia admitted they were wrong and they apologized. It's basically just an input screw up, and they put in a new SOP, yes, standard operating procedure, so that this will never happen again. And we're just gonna have to move forward. That's about all. Anything else, Sam, I should add, or any questions I can answer?
Yeah, does anyone have questions?
I do. So on the next bill, these, the bills that are going to be going out to the people that were affected, it says they will include a separate line for the amount that was underbilled for the previous quarter. Will it be identified? I mean, will people be able to, are they going to be they're getting this letter from Viola ahead of time, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
and then the line on the bill will be clear as to what that is? Or,
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
We're not trying to hide it in there.
yeah,
That's the
Yes.
key.
Yeah.
The idea is that whatever that extra line item is for the rebilling,
Mhm.
that the water usage is clearly connected to the first quarter bill. So people can grab their first quarter bill and they can line it up and
Okay.
see that it is clear. They probably
Okay.
still, a bunch of them will have questions.
Oh, yeah,
But
of course.
that's part of why we have Veolia to answer those questions.
Right.
For
Okay.
any individuals, is it a significant amount of money on their bill?
So we have some numbers here, Hans. I've got them pulled up so I can share them.
Oh, okay.
Hans sent me some numbers a minute ago. So, you know, your median customer, you're looking at about $47 difference in their bill.
Oh,
The average
okay.
is 127, basically. I'm rounding here to the whole number. The winner is the person whose bill is going to go up by 4 cents. We do have I don't know if this is the only outlier like this, Hans, but we have the highest at $5,500. Obviously that's a extremely large user.
Is that's, and these are residential, that's not a business.
That
Or
is
is
that-
it?
But that includes multifamily residential, right?
It could be. It could be. I just don't know. Or it
Hmm.
could be somebody in you know, with a very large lawn that is sprinklered and really doesn't care about the water bill. I just don't know.
Okay.
So to give you guys a sense, it's about a smidge under 4,600 customers who were affected. So a little over half, we about 8,000 customers total. So, you know,
Yeah, it's not a good thing, and but you know, I
Okay.
got to give you guys the good and the bad news, and this is kind of a bad news. I'm sorry about that.
it's, you know, unfortunately stuff happens. It's not, you don't
Yes.
want to see it happen. We don't want to see it, definitely don't want to see it happen again.
Yep.
So very, very good question, Patrick. And we're glad we had the numbers there for you.
And if it's an affordability issue for anyone, will you deal with it on a case-by-case basis? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we have different ways to go about it, and we'll be always accommodating to our customers.
Wonderful.
All right. Any other questions from board members on this? All right. Then I guess we'll move on. Matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. All I just want to add is I just want wish everyone a very happy holidays and a thank you to all of our crews, to you, Hans, and everybody who keeps the water flowing.
Thank you. Happy holidays to everybody on the board side.
Happy holidays to you.
Anyone
You
else
too.
have questions? Anyone want to add?
No.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll see you guys next year.